Hey, everybody, what's the number one thing that can screw up a deal for a real estate investor? It's bad title.
Welcome to Real Estate Investing Secrets. We're all looking for freedom and the opportunity to live better, more fulfilling lives. But most of us were trained our entire lives to work for someone else and chase their dreams. How can we use real estate investing as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom? My life is dedicated to answering your real estate investing questions and helping you build an investing business that allows you to change your life and the world around you, and to enable you to turn your dreams of financial freedom into a reality. My name is Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com, and your questions get answered here on the Real Estate Investing Secrets Show.
Hey, everybody, we are back with another Real Estate Investing Secrets Show on the Flip Nerd Podcast Network. And I am here today with Steve Berneman, and he is what's known as a title expert. So before we get too hot and heavy into what's going on, Steve, I want to say hi, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dylan. It's good to be here, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So title is one of like the scary, like little evil things that a lot of newer investors don't really understand. And I think a lot of the advanced guys and gals still don't really have a handle on what's going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your company does and how you guys help investors?
Yeah, absolutely. So Blueprint Title is a national title and escrow company. We focus exclusively on acquisition and disposition. We only work with investors, wholesalers, prop tech, builders, right? It's anyone who looks at real estate as an asset class, not as a home. And we do that because it's just like you said, we have to come into the transaction thinking, how do we help their business? How do I help you get from contract to close so that you can monetize the contract that you work so hard to get? And that's just so different than what a homeowner is looking for. A homeowner wants that confidence and the marble floor and a law office, right? And when you're buying, you want how easy, how transparent, and how little cost can I get through from contract to close. And the only way to do that is to be experts in this field. To have a national footprint and to do everything we can through technology. Because if you're calling us and faxing us and texting us, that's cutting into your day, and you should be enjoying your day or doing more acquisition work. And so that's how we're designed. The really quick premise on title and escrow, there's two parts to every closing. When you go under contract, you hire an independent third party that's there to manage the contract. And that's our job. Our job is read the contract, whether it's 1 page or 30 pages. And we have to make sure that everything buyers said they would do happens, everything sellers said they would do happens. And then on the day of closing, we collect all the money, we collect all the signatures, and we exchange them. And if we've done our job well, you haven't had to correspond with each other very much. And we've been transparent through the process where you know everything's happening. And so that's the escrow part. The other side is title. And that's what you said we're experts in. And title insurance is a guarantee that the land you're buying is free and clear of liens or encumbrances. Basically, can you buy the property, and does it come with a bunch of blemishes that you're going to have trouble with when you buy it? And so to be an investor-friendly title company means we know what you're looking for, and we know that sometimes you bring some ugly title work. And so we've got to be built to clean that up and get your deals done.
Yeah, that's a great way to break it down, Steve. I've been running real estate investment clubs and meetings for close to 20 years, and one of the most important things to me, as I learned early on, was you had to have an investor-friendly title company, and really, I always wanted to be an expert in almost everything that I did when I sat down with a seller, with a private seller, and sat on a sofa so that I could explain things, because when you can't explain things properly, people get confused, and confused people don't typically make decisions. So it's harder to get a yes when it comes time to buy that property. So I think that's something that newer investors, again, and maybe even the advanced ones, they just are a little bit confused about is really what a title company does and how important they are, and really how vital they are to getting transactions done. And we get a lot of no's when you talk to normal title companies who don't understand what we do as investors. And for you guys to be able to take that and go broad and nationwide is really huge, because I'm sure there's, you've talked to probably thousands of investors, if not more. And I've run across so many who know all these, who learn all the wrong things and all the misnomers and tell me what's illegal, when a lot of times it just takes the right title company to get you across the finish line.
Yeah, that's right. I'll talk to an investor and they'll say, I'm working with this title shop in Virginia Beach and they just suck. They're bad at everything they do and they do this bad and they do that. I go, hey, you know what, man? I bet that title shop's probably not that bad. Like, they know what they're doing, but they do retail home buyers all day long. And when you just brought them like an assignment deal that you switch to a sub 2 halfway through, and it's really in probate, you got some other stuff, you broke their world. Like, they put you on the bottom of the pile because you didn't bring them the contract right. You didn't tell them this is what to expect, and they didn't know what to do. They just don't want to do that work. We built a bunch of templates so that when you bring that file, it goes into a workflow, man. We're not trying to learn every time. We're trying to put it into the machine.
Yeah, it's super important to have that relationship. And, I try to explain to some of these new folks, you go through all these trials and tribulations and sitting with sellers and all the money you spend on marketing. And then you get to what you think is the finish line with that contract gets signed. But that's really when the game kind of starts in my eyes, because if title's no good, then forget about it. That's always my first question, right? Did you run title yet? If a new investor brings me a deal or a wholesaler tries to bring me a deal to sell. And obviously that's the first thing that I do is, I have to run title and make sure it's clean, because I don't want to put it out there to other investors and then them look at my deals and say, Dylan doesn't know what he's talking about, because it makes you a bad wholesaler or just investor in general. It doesn't have to be wholesalers, but there's so many wholesalers in the market now. So I know a lot of people who are in title, Steve, and I've heard the saying that you don't find title finds you. And you've told me a couple times now that you started your career in law, and that's awesome. And now you're in title, right? And you own Blueprint Title. So how did you go from being an attorney to deciding to be a title guy?
Yeah. So my journey, I went to law school. I did a joint degree in the law school and the business school here at Vanderbilt, which is why I live in Nashville. And my design was, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've had some small companies, and I had a little sports company for a while. And so I really went and did a joint degree so that I could be a small business attorney or continue being an entrepreneur. And so I did high tech mergers and acquisitions in Austin. Like, I was selling companies to Sun Microsystems, and from day one, I was really lucky. I had a partner who knew that I didn't really want to be a lawyer. He knew I wanted to be one of our clients. And so I would get in and work with founding teams and just say, like, so you've built this $300 million business. Walk me through the journey. Like, what'd you learn? And I immediately got all this mentorship. And so I was able to leave the firm after a few years, and I started a tech company. We was at the intersection of professional sports and video games. I'm not a gamer, but it's a space I've always respected. I mean, gaming is huge, right? And so we built this really fun company. We sold it in 2016. And I went looking for what I wanted to do next. And title found me. I had bought a couple homes. I had a couple rental properties. I was like an early investor. Nashville was already pretty expensive in 2016. And so I wasn't able to buy all that much. And as I talked to the market, I said, what about investing is hard? And the answer came back every time: closing and title sucks, and there's not a solution. And so I went and started learning. And there are parts of title and closing that are just so antiquated that for me is an amazing moment, because if you can come in and apply like modern technology to an antiquated business, then you can provide value on day one. And so I went and built this terrible beta website that was basically like I cobbled together DocuSign and Dropbox and like 4 other real estate products. And I just started. Like I just day one, I just went out like attracting builders and some investors and just said like, hey, the pitch in like early 2017 was never drive to a title company again. Log in, see all your documents, e-sign everything. And the problem was I didn't know anything about title insurance and I was making it up as I went along. And then I had to go and learn and as nerdy and like niche and specific as this market is, it's kind of fun to be in problem solving mode all the time. And so title found me. I started to like it. And then fortunately I got to replace myself with people who actually do know how to do title insurance and they're a lot better at it than I was.
Yeah, I think the best, I think we talked a little baseball last time we were together, and the best managers aren't necessarily the best players. They know how to play the game, but they may be the guys or gals who are able to kind of motivate the rest of the team and be able to put those puzzle pieces in place so that machine worked better. Yeah. And I like your analogy of taking technology and stacking on an antiquated business, because again, I've been around not a long time, but for the investor world, 20 years is a little bit of a long time. And title really hasn't changed much, other than there's products out there allowing people to with some counties or states that you can sign your notary, in front of a video screener like the Pavaso, and I know about all these other companies. So that part's cool, but I think the big part is the ease. Like you said, I deal with a lot of builders myself and other investors, and it used to be where I would stop at Starbucks on the way to the closing. And this is like pre-foreclosure days, because after the foreclosure days, no one ever wanted to go to a title company. Right. But I'd be meeting you, Steve, and we'd be, co-investors doing deals together. I'd have my suit on. I'd bring you a coffee, me a coffee. We'd sit there for 2 hours after the closing. We'd be networking, and talking about the next deal. And today it's just not like that. I don't ever, no offense, I love my title company, but I don't ever want to have to go there unless I'm going to run into someone of that caliber who I can spend time with. And it's just not like that anymore. Everything gets done at a desk, and, mobile notaries, depending what state, what city, or counties and all that stuff. But I guess, what would you say like the biggest misconceptions that real estate investors have about the title business are that you've seen?
Yeah. One is every title company is the same. And you already debunked that, right? The second is the prices are set by the government, so there's no reason to shop. It's not true, right? I mean, in Texas and Florida, premiums are set by the government. New Mexico, those are the 3 states. If you're buying anywhere else, you can shop. And so we have an underwriter. We filed our own rates. We only work with investors. We save people a lot of money. So people should shop. That's number 2. Number 3 is an ugly title means the deal isn't doable. And that's just not true. If you go to a reasonable title shop and you work ahead, we can get through almost everything. The only thing that changes is the time frame. And so I pitch that all the time when I'm talking to investors, even if they're not in a state that we're in, I'm saying, look, let me help you find someone who can get your deals done. Because we're supposed to be here to serve your business. And 20 years ago, if that was networking, that's great. Today, I feel like if I can help you close a higher percentage of your contracts, then we've really created value for the business.
Yeah, they're going to keep coming back. And I think I met some mortgage guys who are probably in their 80s now. And back 20 years ago, when they were in their early 60s, if they couldn't get a deal done, they would say, come to me anyways, right? Because I'll find a lender or a bank, or I'll make this happen. And I would say to myself, 20-year-old guys can't do that because they need to eat, right? That's all they think about is closing their next deal. But the 60-year-old guys said, wait a minute, let's have all these people come to us, because even if we can't get paid on that, they get a referral, a handshake, not a referral fee, but they get a thank you from who they're doing business with. But more importantly, I'm going to come back to them. And then who am I going to refer to them also? And I think the relationships are coming back a lot stronger than they were. It seems like, again, after the foreclosure days, and we had that run up for such a long time, for a solid, decade plus, everybody was winning almost no matter what, right? We had 17% growth in states like where I'm at. I'm in Michigan. We don't have 17% growth ever. And now it's down to 8, they say. And that's still spectacular because, I don't bank on growth in Michigan, not that type of growth anyways, but it's going to get back and normalize, I think, a little bit. And it's going to take those relationships between guys like us and other investors and people that we've known for a long time to keep that business going. So I guess with that being said, what would you say that, what would you say that like one of your funny investor stories is that you have that you can pull out of your hat?
Our very first deal. It was our very first deal. And one of the reasons it was funny is because I didn't have anyone else. So I was dealing every part of it. Worked this deal February 14th. It's Valentine's night. The deal's supposed to close February 15th. I start getting phone calls February 14th, and the buyer is walking through the property. And the buyer can't get in touch with the wholesaler, and the buyer can't get in touch with the seller. And this guy is buying the property, and he's trying to move renters in on Monday, the 18th. This is Thursday, the 14th. He calls me and he said, "Steve, I need you to get to this property immediately." And I said, "Man, you're in Decatur, Georgia, and I live in Tennessee. So you got to get over here immediately. There were painters in here today, and they brought their dogs in, and there's 3 giant piles of dog crap in the middle of this living room." And so he's cursing at me on the phone. I'm trying to call the buyer. I'm trying to call the seller, and no one will pick up. And this is my very first deal. And I wasn't entirely sure what the title company was in charge of. And so I called a maid service and got the maid service to show up at the house. They cleaned up the carpet. They got everything done. The buyer was happy. They ended up closing the deal the next day. And I've got a mentor in Nashville who's been a title agent for 40 years. And I'm telling him the story. And I said, "Yeah, so I guess I paid for the maid." And he said, "You paid for the maid?"
You did what? Yeah.
And I was like, "Man, I don't know what my job is." And so at Blueprint, not to curse on the Flip Nerd Network, but when we call something a dog shit deal, it doesn't mean it's a bad contract. A dog shit deal means there's irrational people yelling about irrational things, and we got to figure out how to solve it.
Yeah, I think something that's missing in the investor world, and I try to educate new investors about this all the time, is what a title company actually does. And I don't mean in terms of examining title and that kind of stuff. I'm saying kind of what their role is. And I know it's different in each state, and I'm a title state, not an attorney state, but a lot of times I have, and I always make fun of guys because women are much smarter than us, right? But I have these new guys calling me, and sometimes they're younger and they're so excited and they're like, "Yeah, so I'm working with, I got to send everything to the title company, and they need to call the seller, and they need to set this up, and I need them to tell them this, but they won't do it for me." And I'm like, no. I'm like, they interpret contracts, just like you said, Steve. They're there to close the deal. A lot of times you guys will go the extra mile, but I guess what advice would you give to the new investors who are getting started that who don't really know how to manage a deal, and they kind of look to you guys to think that you're like almost the real estate brokerage?
Yeah. I love the thing you said at the beginning of this conversation. How can you sit on the couch and sound knowledgeable? Because we both know, and I'm an investor. If I'm talking to a seller, you're talking to the seller too. How am I convincing them to go with me? I've got to sound credible and honest, credible, right? And so the first part of that is understanding a transaction. I talk to the same young guys that you talk to. And yeah, it takes them longer than young women. I've got 2 daughters, so it's even easier for me to say. The first thing I say is, "Have you read your own contract?" And they go, "No, a lawyer friend drafted this for me, so I didn't read it." Okay, why don't we spend 20 minutes doing that together? So let's read the contract. Let's go through and figure out the elements. And when you do that, you're going to get a roadmap for how this works. Hey, Dylan, your screen went black. And so I'm going to pause because
I'm still here. I'm just changing batteries, I think. Let's see. Whoops. There we go. We're back. I needed a new big fat battery.
You're fine, man.
Go ahead. We
All
keep
right.
rolling.
So first is read your contract. And if you do, you're going to be able to talk to the seller really knowledgeably and credibly about what's going to happen next. The second part is talk to your sellers. Find out, hey, is there anything I need to know? I want to close this as fast as possible, and I want to get you your money as fast as possible. Is there anything I should know as we head into closing? A lot of times sellers will start to tell you, hey, this is happening, this is happening, and this is happening. If you know that going in, you can better set expectations for the seller and for yourself. And then when you open the contract with title, whether it's Blueprint or anyone else, on your first deal, ask to be heavily involved. So everything we do is in our portal so that you have transparency, you know where it's moving. No matter who you're working with, ask to be involved in the first deal and know the milestones of a transaction. And so really quickly, Dylan, order opening. Order opening is get the contract in, do the title search, receive the earnest money, right? Get all that stuff. Mortgage so that you can pay it off. HOA, grab all stuff. So order opening. The second one is processing. Processing means I'm gathering all the information, I'm building a settlement statement. Why is it important? Well, now you can look and make sure your money's going in the right way, and seller can look and make sure that seller knows that money's coming in. The third part is title. Is the title clean so that we can close on this file? Meaning seller has authority, there are no outstanding liens, that IRS judgment got paid off, right? All that kind of stuff. So order opening, processing, title, closing. Investors should know their own closing and their seller. So for the seller, these days, you're almost always going to have a mobile notary. Make sure the seller knows what to expect. They're bringing an ID with them, and a good title company is going to work with them. But the seller should have an ID. The seller should be, there should be a witness there in most states. For you as an investor, you should know, yeah, can you do a RON, a remote online notary? Frankly, most investors should be e-signing for everything these days. So are you ready to e-sign? Is this ready to go? So you have closing, disbursement. How quickly is the seller going to get their money? And if you're a wholesaler, when are you going to get your assignment? Set those expectations up front. If you're closing at 4 p.m. on a Friday, you're getting paid on Monday afternoon, probably.
Yeah, maybe Tuesday
Right.
morning if wires are slow.
That's right. And certainly in Michigan. So if you know that seller needs their money, I promise you, schedule that closing for 9 a.m. They're going to leave you a good review. Schedule it for 4 p.m. They're going to leave you a bad review. You didn't do anything different. So have that knowledge, right? And then post-closing, you better be confident in your title company that they cleaned up, that they did everything right. And having a good, trustworthy relationship means you know that after you receive the money, all those other things happen too. And so I think it's that. It's take the time early in your career to learn the stages of a closing and the milestones. And when you do that, you're going to feel better about your business and you're going to sound more credible for your sellers.
Yeah, I really think that it's missing, and no one wants to do it, Steve. Nobody, it's like going back to baseball, like no one wants to field ground balls all day unless they really think they're going to make it, right? Or if they're a really sucky hitter and all they're good at is playing shortstop. That's the only way that they're going to start. But the newer people, and like it's all the flashy stuff, and like I don't want to sound like an old man, but what you learn on Facebook and the contracts you get on Facebook, they might be good, they might not be good. I'm certainly not going to use anything I get on Facebook. But I think the new generation is taught just to run and gun and fake it till you make it. Yeah. And I used to sit with a title examiner from the biggest family-owned title company in like pretty much the Tri-County area where I'm at up in Detroit. And he'd be there at, just like all title examiners are crazy, right? And that's okay. Yeah. He'd be there at 5 a.m. and the office was like a mile from my house. So as I'd be going to job sites before I had to go and be a flipper and do all that horrible Home Depot work, I'd sit with him sometimes for an hour or two, and he would just teach me stuff. And we were buying lots of foreclosures, dozens and dozens a month. And sometimes you didn't get a title policy with them if they were HUDs, like all stuff we don't have to worry about today. But I truly did learn how title worked from him and a lot of the nuances. And like you talked about the milestones and setting expectations, I think this has nothing to do with title. The best business owners and salespeople know how to set expectations and deliver on them as much as humanly possible. And I think that that's something the newer investors who are listening or watching definitely should build into their business, because people are just nervous all the time. And there's so many online scams out there. I just closed a deal recently with a guy who's like young like us. And like he's closed multiple deals and he's just paranoid. When do I get the wire? I don't know when this works. I don't know how closing works. And I'm like, you've been through this a dozen times, but some people just get anxiety. And I think when you, the newer wholesalers, they'll kind of just hide, right? They'll hide. And then the title guy or the title company always picks up the phone between 8 and 5 or whatever it is. So they're looking for Dylan, right? They can't find him. They're asking the title girls and they're like, he said that title's not clear yet. Well, this is another thing I explained to these new investors. I'm like, the title company isn't, and they certainly shouldn't, going to lie for you. So you don't have your clients deal direct with the title company, not because of the lying reason, but because you need to keep control of the transaction, and then you deliver all the information to your clients. When you're an agent, it's a little bit different, right? Because the lines get blurred and there's other people involved, and they're attorney drawn contracts. It's much more sanitized than our crazy world of investing, like you said. And a lot of times these newer investors just figure that they'll let the title company do the work, and that's fine. But when they do, you just never know how things are going to be delivered. How, if they're mistaken. Not every title person truly understands sub 2, right? Even if it is an investor friendly title company. And I don't want anyone, I'd let Steve explain something to my sellers or my buyers, but I really don't want anyone doing that, because I'm going to do it. I'm their concierge. And this is what newer investors don't understand, is like, we have to have 100% control of the transaction, because you don't want anybody else in there like mucking the water up, because once one person says the wrong thing, they're always going to be nervous. And
I'll tell you, can I add something to it though?
Please. Yeah.
The other thing that I see investors get nervous about is, I don't want my seller to know it's an assignment. Don't ever tell them anything, right? And that's when we show up and we go, listen, first of all, they're going to know the day they sign the documents, because your name's not on it anymore. Now it says, right, like big fund. They're going to figure it out. Or two, depending on the state, the escrow company may have to tell them. So
yeah, it's all state dependent, right?
Set them up for it beforehand, and then title's not going to scare them. But work with your title company, not against them, by like being honest up front. And the way you said it was exactly right. If you trust your title partner, then you trust when they tell you, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. We tell people all the time, hey, you don't want to do this deal. Right. I'm going to make 40 grand on this assignment. And go, yeah, we're pretty sure this is a fraudulent sale. Right. There's a sister and brother isn't telling you about it, and he's going to tell you this, this, and this, and you can take this deal away from us and you can give it to another title company. We want you to make money. We want to make money. Don't do this deal. Right. And we have plenty of people who ignore us and they go do it, and that's okay. But if you trust your title partner, you can also trust them to talk and kind of do things correctly.
Yeah, there's always a third brother-in-law. Every attorney will tell me that when it comes down to probate. And I think greed just overtakes people, and that's not an excuse, but it does. And I've lost out on a couple huge deals because my title examiner was just like, there's something funky here and you have to be double extra careful. And when we dug in, that the seller couldn't produce something, or it was just weird. And I don't want 6 years later for somebody to come back and say that something was, that smelled funny was wrong. Because it comes back. I hear it all the time. There's forgeries and all kinds of crazy stuff. When I've met and talked with different national underwriters, and you hear their stories, and oh man, it's like, there's definitely some criminals out there. So there's so many deals that you want to learn how to do it clean, and you want people to love you and to know who you are. As big as this business is, I don't know who you are, Steve, other than, when we've met in the last year, but if I dig deep enough, within about 3 calls, you can probably find out something about Dylan in Detroit, and I can learn about more how you got started, where you come from, because our business, real estate investing, really is teeny tiny. because there aren't that many very successful real estate investors nationwide, and it's a small circle. So you want to have that good name. And today, with, like you said, Google reviews and the way that customers or clients are just so fickle, you do not want to leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth.
Yeah, that's right. And it's like any other thing. There's no reason to work with a vendor you don't trust. There's no reason to hide stuff. And that's why I like working with you and with anyone you ever bring, is that honesty and transparency. They understand that's not only are they probably good people to begin with, but because we're middle America people, and that's where the best people are. But they understand they're building a long-term business, and so I think that's what we always look for in our clients. It's what you look for when you're doing buying and selling, and it's a small community.
Yeah, I always tell people, listen, I'm going to be around forever, so to make a quick buck isn't worth it. And long-term relationships, they'll surpass everything else. But I got a market question for you, Steve. This isn't title related or even really necessarily investing related, but you've been in the business for a long time. So everyone's talking about this big shift that's coming or that's already upon us. For investors or any real estate professionals, what advice do you have, or what do you feel like is happening over the next couple years?
Sure. Look, I gave a big presentation the other day. This is not a bad economy. This is a different economy, which means there are different winners and different losers in this economy. From an investor standpoint, what do we see? Cash is king. Cash is always king. But right now, if you have cash in hand, what a great time to be buying. Know your markets. And so the other thing I would say, and I think we'll see this more over the next couple of years, Michigan grew at 20%. Why? Because the whole country was growing at 18% or 20%. I think over the next couple of years, you got to be a little pickier about your markets. And Detroit isn't Ann Arbor, and Memphis isn't Nashville. You've got to go a little bit more local. And we have a mutual friend in Detroit who tells me that he'll only invest in one county, and it's not Wayne, right?
Oakland.
He will only go in one county. Why? Because he doesn't know enough about that next county. I think over the next couple of years, that's who we're going to see start to win. Are those people who can get in. And then, I think, Dylan, what are we seeing about the new economy? Those people who can build a pro-consumer brand are going to be the ones that I think win over the next couple of years. If you look at the hedge funds who are doing all the mass acquisition, Google reviews and everything else, but even Congress coming out and going after some of these large hedge funds with, doing 30,000 acquisitions a year. The ones with positive consumer brand seem to be unscathed. And so, as when I'm looking at properties, I'm always looking for dispo partners who have a good brand in the market, because I'm going to get attached to their name. And so am I looking for people, not just I want to do business with, but that are treating people right in the end. And so from a market perspective, we've seen in the last 6 months, average purchase prices have only dropped 2%. Across all of our markets. I'll tell you, there are some markets where they're still going up, but we're down 2% since January, February. Acquisition volume is up, despite what newspapers will tell you. Our acquisition volume is up per client, and we don't yet see a slowdown. I think Q4 is going to be pretty hot, and then the last thing we're looking at is foreclosure. I think we're going to start to see, in particular, redder states start to experiment with some foreclosure rules that override federal government rules. As that happens, you're going to see sellers, whether they're going to be successful or not, we'll see. But in the political landscape, with states saying, no, we're going to free up some land, we're going to free up local banks. Are you going to have more motivated sellers. So more motivated sellers at prices that might make sense, and people who want to stay in their house but be renters. So can you do lease back deals? Can you do, I think those buyers who have cash and can be creative are going to have a lot of opportunity in Q4, Q1, Q2.
Yeah, that's interesting, Steve. I like that insight. I think, long before there were the technologies that we have today, like Zoom or us being able to do a show like this, I think our real estate forefathers were probably coming out of World War II talking about there's never been a market like this, right? And then in the 70s, there's never been a market like this.
Mm-hmm.
Then early 90s, and then after the foreclosure boom. And I don't think we can ever really get ready for that wave, but being a prudent investor, having as much cash as possible, and like you said, becoming an expert in maybe more niche or smaller areas protects you. There's always going to be big whales who can handle anything. But the people I think who are listening and watching shows like this, they're what you would call, like you said, they're normal, right? They're guys and gals getting started, or they're at a certain level and they're not buying 30,000 properties a year. The hedge fund, hedge fund CEOs aren't listening to us yet, but I think that's pretty good insight. It's it just, you got to bear down and take your business serious and learn how things work. And I think just sit back and build slowly. And that's kind of counterintuitive to what we're taught today, or especially the kids are taught today. Everything is, right now, and disposable. And I think the investors who can sit back and build a little bit more slowly and take advantage and look at things from a more creative standpoint, like you said, will come out ahead. Because I think the average American is kind of, I think they're just starting to lean back, like you said, and they're ready to kind of sell their house to you and lease it back from you, almost like on a reverse mortgage. That's kind of the attitude that you see out there. So that's pretty exciting.
I think there's some common sense elements to it, Dylan. I don't think you have to be a PhD in economics. You look at the economy and you say, all right, unemployment's really low, but mortgage rates are really high. Well, that means more people are moving to this city, but they can't buy houses. Maybe this is the market. Maybe this is my buy and hold market, right? How do I pay for that? Well, I've got another market with rising unemployment. I've got another market where, Memphis is losing people every year, right? So how do I look to wholesale in my Memphis market to pay for my buy and hold in Nashville? Don't just do what you did last month. What can you do differently this month that builds upon your knowledge? And that's what we try to do. That's what you've done really well your whole career. And I think the people who are listening to the show are probably here because they know that you're teaching good stuff and they want to change next month from what they did last month.
Yeah, that's great advice. I always try to teach you have to be nimble. And again, only being in the business 20 years, I've seen quite a few cycles, pre-foreclosures, during foreclosures, after foreclosures. So I'm always extra careful and kind of ready to dance with whatever music kind of starts playing. And we'll see what music comes next. So as we're rounding third and heading home, Steve, I always like to ask all my guests, what has networking and relationships, what have they meant to you in your business?
Yeah. I have to learn every day. I didn't know Novations 2 years ago. How did I first learn about Novations? Someone called me and asked for a resource. And I said, I'm happy to introduce you to someone. Can you teach me a little bit about this? And I'll make the joy is in giving, right? The networking is what can I do for you? Not because I know that I'm going to need to call on you tomorrow, but what can I do for you? Because I'm going to learn from it today, and I'm positive it comes out in the end. And real estate is such a small market. So whether it's reputation or introductions, the more I can give, the more our company can grow, the more I can learn. And just, there's no doubt that guys like you and folks who are so well respected in the industry, it's because you learn every day and you give. And I will try to do that every day. And I don't have 20 years, so I'm going to, by my 20th year, I hope I can be where you are. But, we work all the time. one of the things I stole from you, actually, one of the goals I've set is to mentor at least 10 times a month, which is I have mentor points on the wall in my office, and it's how many times can I help someone with no expectation back? If you call me and ask me about a deal in Oregon, Blueprint isn't live in Oregon, but I am very happy to review a title commitment with you, teach you how it works, and go through, because I bet I'm going to learn something about Oregon, but also because I know I'm going to help you, and that's going to be good for the ecosystem. And so I keep points. I don't always get to 10, but we work really hard to try to get there. And I know that our business grows because of it.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. I get different answers all the time. Once in a while, I get that you're supposed to give more than you get, but a lot of times I get that if it wasn't for networking and the RIA groups and the meetups, I wouldn't be where I am either, because that's where a lot of us. There's no school. Well, there was never a school to learn real estate investing. Now there's a lot of places who will teach you for tens of thousands of dollars a class. But yeah, that's great. I think the cliche is you got to give till it hurts, and I make a lot less money than I could if I was a bit more cunning, but I'm happy with what I do. I'm happy with the relationships I've built. And, to me, that's what networking is also. It's giving and not really looking to get anything back. And then a lot of times we get things back and we don't know how lucky we are, because it could always be a lot worse, right? So you got to have gratitude.
That's absolutely right.
I think people forget about that all the time, and I try to remind myself daily. So, and we even have the gratitude journal, right? At Investor Fuel, the is it called the Power of Five? I forget. It's called the Five. I don't know if you were there when you heard the new booklet that came out, but
I did. I don't remember
Fuel
the name
Five.
of it.
Fuel Five is what it is. Right. Yeah, I used to do mine. It was called the Power of Five. Same thing, but we're all on the same path. So, Steve, you've given us a ton of information. We truly appreciate it. What is the best way for our listeners and viewers to get in touch with you and to learn more about Blueprint Title?
Absolutely. So, website's blueprinttitle.com. Included in there, I would tell you, there's a section called the Blueprint Academy. The Blueprint Academy is about 300 articles on title insurance and closing. If there's something you need to know, if you want to know a little bit more about sub-twos, for example, log in. There's an article for that. And I know that because we've got a woman named Amanda in Florida who just sits and writes articles all day. And so we try to be that resource for you. So log into blueprinttitle.com. My email address is steve@blueprinttitle. Happy to address anything you have. And again, if you can help me get to my mentorship points, I'd love to do it. And so steve@blueprinttitle.com, would love to work with you and see how we can help. But if you're just asking about a deal or want to learn more, would really love to connect. So I appreciate the ask.
Awesome, Steve. Yeah. So as you guys know, we listen and take all the notes so you don't have to. So when you go to flipnerd.com, just click over to the podcast. If you guys want to see all the show notes from today, all of Steve's information's in there, how you can get a hold of me. Of course, there's links there. And more importantly, we've done over 1,500 shows at Flipnerd. So if you have yet to give us a shiny gold 5-star review, then we would love for you to do that and really just leave us an honest review, because we work hard for the show and that's what helps us keep going. And if you haven't left us any comments, please do that. We would love to see what you guys have to say. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next show. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to today's show. There are 3 ways I can help you start or grow your real estate investing business. If you're a new investor and just getting started, the Flipnerd Investor Coaching Program is the most effective program in America. I've been coaching and mentoring new real estate investors for 10 years, and my students have literally purchased thousands and thousands of properties. Many of them started with little to no experience at all. Our program is a paint-by-numbers program where we tell you exactly what to do week by week to make sure that you don't get distracted on your way to results. We show you how to build a real business, not just create another job for yourself. New memberships are limited. You can learn more and apply or schedule a call with me and my team at flipnerd.com/coaching. If you're an experienced investor doing a minimum of 10 deals a year, up to 500 deals a year or more, or have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio already, you should check out our powerful Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. Over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors are members, and it's not uncommon for our members to 2 to 5x their business just from getting around other members at Investor Fuel. At Investor Fuel, each of us are business advisors to one another's businesses, but we don't stop at business. We focus heavily on becoming better people and living fuller lives. If you're looking for fuel for your business or fuel for your life, please check out investorfuel.com. Applications and interviews are required, as most investors are not a fit for our community. Please learn more at investorfuel.com. If you're not ready for coaching or masterminds but eager to start learning more about investing, please join our private Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/Facebook. New members get access to free training from us right here at flipnerd.com, and it's a community to safely ask your questions, a great place to get started. Simply go to flipnerd.com/Facebook to request your access today.